The most exciting thing about Lorcana for me at Gen Con and after Gen Con was figuring out what the effect of the finances was going to be of the game. As we know, because so many boxes were available at Gen Con, we're already seeing a market forming for the game on the singles market in the pre-launch timeframe. I'm filming this now on July 16th. August 16th. The game launches in 2 days officially at your LGS, but there's already a singles market out there. TCGplayer already has pre-sales. There's been plenty of sales already in various Facebook marketplace groups, and especially on eBay for people that could not launch their pre-sales on TCGplayer. So what is the effect going to be between now, let's call it August 18th, and September 1st? Again, when that wave of product hits the mass market, I believe there will be a change in the way the finances look, and we'll check back in then, of course. Again, post-Gen Con established the early pricing. The pricing at Gen Con was obviously insane. A lot of it happened right after Gen Con happened 2 weeks ago, and now the prices have pretty much stabilized to where they are right now. And I think they will also change in a bit coming up on August 18th. The one thing I do know is many stores out there did not get their full distribution order. They were extremely short allocated. And a lot of stores, unfortunately, are charging well over MSRP for boxes. So therefore, I do believe the supply of the game will be limited even come August 18th. And that's going to be a factor. Again, I do believe prices from September 1st, from August 18th until you ramp up to September 1st may rise a little bit from the initial August 18th sell-off that people just want to make their money back for whatever happens on August 18th. But after September 1st hits, it's possible that even people that get a bunch of product on September 1st, they may, again, be a sell-off right around that time, and then it'll probably go back up until, again, that second wave of product hits that we've been hearing about. They'll hit both big box stores and local game stores probably around the same time. It depends on how that works off, and we're not sure when that's going to happen. The best guesses are mid to late September, but no one really knows. We'll just have to keep an eye on it at your stores, and they'll probably tell you when it's available. The one thing to know, of course, is higher box prices means higher singles prices. There's just no doubt about it. At some point, it becomes more profitable to usually buy singles than it does boxes, especially when the box prices are so high. But for most singles dealers, and especially the ones that are going to have the ability to even be able to sell singles, given the short amount of product that's out there in inventory, if they have to pay more for the boxes, they have to sell them more. And now that we pretty much have a good idea of what the distribution of the packs is going to be, that's going to affect things as well. So just keep that in mind. But if you're seeing box prices be high, you're probably going to see singles prices be high until that September 1st timeframe as well. The last thing I want to mention, and I think this is pretty important, and I can get into this more in future videos. In fact, let me know below if you want me to go into this topic a little more. Card value is what you sell a card for, not really what you can buy a card for. So like if you think about it logically, like a buy list that a big dealer has or really any seller has is probably a better indication of what your collection is worth than looking at the prices that things are selling for, because the only way that they're able to sell them at those prices is that they bought them at lower prices. So just keep that in mind, that I consider what your collection to be worth and what a card to be worth is more around the buy list price than it is around the sell price. Real quick, I want to thank someone I saw on Facebook and someone I've talked to on Twitter. Gigabyte, he's typically a Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTuber, but he has started from sort of Lorcana content. He's been keeping up with a lot of what's going on in the Lorcana world, and we talked about this. He watched a bunch of box opening videos, a ton of them, and came up with this probability ratio of what it is to open in certain packs. And I think this is very, very close to all the boxes I opened at Gen Con. I opened double-digit boxes at Gen Con. And have been kind of sorting them and going through them, selling cards, etc., for the last couple of weeks. So I would agree with a lot of what's on here. I think this is very fair. Obviously, I'll know more on Friday, but I do want to again thank Gigabyte. All his socials are down below, and you can see his YouTube page at the top. So definitely give him a follow and on Twitter or sub to his channel. He will definitely have more Lorcana content coming up, and he's probably going to join me on this channel for some strategy and finance as well. So the one thing I want to point out here is, of course, the commons and uncommons are what they are. The big thing to note is the rares are about 3 out of 2. So remember, you get 2 rare or above in a pack. So there's like, you're usually getting 1 to 2 rares, depending on how much, what you could get. So obviously there's going to be more rares floating out there, but I'll talk about that in a second. The chance of getting a super rare are about 1 in 2, 50% of the time. And the chance of getting a legendary about 1 in 5. So what does that mean? This meets with the ratios that I've seen in the boxes. You're talking about anywhere from 12 to 16. I know that's a pretty big ratio, but I mean, pretty big change in the numbers there, but that's what I'm seeing around the super rares, 12 to 14, 12 to 16 per box. I've seen more, I've seen less. Legendaries are generally 4 to 6, with a lot of them falling around 5. I have seen boxes with 7. I have seen boxes with 2, but most of them are landing in the 4 to 6 ratio. In terms of foils, this is something I had not really looked into, so I'm glad that Gigabyte broke this down. The chance of getting a common are about 50%, 25% on an uncommon, 12.5% on a rare, only 5% on a super rare, which means in 1 in 20, you're basically looking at trying to get 1 super rare foil out of a box, maybe 2, depending on where you hit that foil sheet. And foil legendary, this is something that I have seen. It's about 1 in every 2 boxes. His ratio is actually a little bit worse. I mean, depending on what boxes you open, that's about the ratio I was looking at, 1 out of every 2 boxes. And then Enchanted is right where I said it was going to be in the Enchanted video, 1 in every case. So what you see here again is, yes, an Enchanted is about 2 times as rare as a legendary foil, but legendary foils are still pretty rare. So for those legendaries that don't have Enchanted versions, they probably are going to be priced very high, like the Enchanteds are. So again, thanks Gigabyte, really good data. We're going to be using a lot of this to make a lot of assumptions around prices and things we've seen in the wild. Again, I have a store on TCG Player. I have many thousands of sales on there. You can check it out. This is old. I have more sales even since then, both Lorcana and other games. So I do have come at this from a pretty decent position of authority. I've also helped price a lot of the pre-sales that are out there from other dealers on Lorcana, so I have a pretty good authority on where prices are supposed to land on this stuff, especially from, and again, a lot of this is the August 18th until September 1st pricing. Again, I do expect things to change as of September 1st. At this point, once TCG Player allows it to be sold on August 18th, I believe the law of supply and demand will just take over. So that'll happen on September 1st. But a lot of the prices that you're going to see right now are the August 18th launch prices. Obviously, if somebody just wants to get rid of something or dump it, they're not a huge seller, they don't need to make a certain margin, etc. You're going to see these prices fluctuate in the next couple of weeks, and especially probably go down on September 1st. But keep in mind, these are the prices where most things are starting. And again, what I'm seeing locally is I'm paying anywhere from 55 to 100% premium on a lot of the product on August 18th. Although, I hope most of you out there can find a product at a pretty decent price. So you're not paying these exorbitant prices that are out there for boxes. I talked about this in the Enchanted video, but I want to reuse this chart again, because to me, regular cards and foil cards are the same concept as the Enchanteds. We're actually more around here now, but that's neither here nor there. We're more around here now, given what's happened. But right here is where we're right about at with the LGS release. So what you see is prices coming down as we reach August 18th. I do think things will go down overall for all cards, and then eventually, once we get closer, probably at a week out, right around the 25th, 26th. Again, as I said in my other video, I'm looking at this on a day-by-day basis because that's how often things are changing. I can tell you that this is exactly what happened over the last 2 weeks. After Gen Con, things went down. And then over the last week, I've almost sold out of all the legendaries that I had in stock. So the demand for them went way up as the supply started reducing, because a lot of people just, kind of like, oh, I got to make my money back on the boxes I spent, so I'm going to blow them out in the first week. And then they didn't have enough stock for the second week. So, people that waited like me were just able to make not a ton more money, but like more money by not selling it at the absolute crash that happens right away. The same thing will happen after August 18th. People are going to try to get rid of stuff right away to make back with the money they spent on boxes and things like that, and then keep a portion of the cards. And then the cards will eventually go back up as we start to get closer to September 1st. And then come September 1st again, that's when, in my opinion, when the price crash will happen again. And then as time goes on, we'll start to reach equilibrium. There'll be more stuff put on the mass market. More players will be dumping their cards, and eventually we'll reach equilibrium as players are actually starting to fill out their decks for what they need. And then eventually, a new set will come out, and in my opinion, this set will eventually kind of go up a little bit because the new set will kind of take over what most people are spending their money. Now let's look at the rarities. I know this is what you're here for. Again, if you watch my last video on finance, they were based on totally different ratios in both legendaries and super rares. So that's changed now. Now that we have a better idea of what the actual ratio is. And again, like the prices that we're seeing on TCG Player that are seeing pre-sales, and other sites are having pre-sales, this is where I'm seeing a lot of the prices start. I do want to point out, I'm going to show you basically the median price for each one of these rarities, and then a bunch of cards that are typically above that, because what you're seeing as any game launches right away, there aren't a lot of cards that are necessarily well below the median. There are only a ton of cards at the median, and then a few cards above it. So, and I think that's at this point really all that you should be concerned with, like what's above it, not necessarily like what's way below it, because I don't think there's like an opportunity to spike a card or anything like that might go up in value. It's really just about how pretty much everything is at the same point, except for certain cards that are above it. Whether they'll stay above it, some will, some won't. It depends on the rarity of the card and the playability eventually of the card, which we don't really know yet, and there isn't a ton of OP that's been announced yet. So until that happens, we're not seeing certain cards in decks, etc., in winning decks and things like that. That'll obviously affect the market as we go on. So let's start with the commons. So on the common front, what I'm seeing is a starting price assumption on each common is pretty much about 90 cents. Again, that's what they're being sold at, not necessarily what a dealer will give you for them in buy price, but that's basically where they're starting at. I do expect that commons to be a race to the bottom, which means that smaller dealers that come in will just try to dump as many as they can. They're willing to accept way less money on a per card basis, which kills them in terms of shipping, but they typically don't care, etc. So I would say the starting price assumption for most commons is around 90 cents. The ones I'm seeing above that are Stitch New Dog, Mickey Mouse Steamboat Pilot, and Goofy. These are both over $1.15 that I'm seeing in the pre-sale prices. So that's a quarter more, and that's pretty significant on a 90-cent card. So I know it doesn't sound like much, but it really is significant when you're dealing with massive quantities of how many of these are up there. I don't even want to tell you how many I have ready to go on August 18th, but it is pretty significant when you're about a quarter up. And then pretty much every other common is at that price. I just have a few examples here, but literally almost every other common is there. Even the ones that I think are really bad are still pretty much right there. And eventually, like I said, it'll be a race to the bottom on this. What's the bottom price over the next couple of weeks? I would probably say around 50 to 60 cents maybe. But again, people aren't going to have products, so they need commons. And the distribution of the commons is pretty good, but overall, it's not great. The main factor for commons and uncommons is that card in the starter deck? If it is in the starter deck, and obviously all the commons I believe are represented in the starter deck, if a common or uncommon is in the starter deck, it's going for less. Because there's just multiple ways to get it. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to buy every single starter, but they probably will. It just means that like the demand that players have, because they know they're going to be getting in a starter, is less, because they know they're guaranteed to get some copies of it. And if they're able to buy like 2 starters each, they're probably able to get a playset of most of these. From an uncommon perspective, the starting price is actually less than I assumed it was going to be. It's right about $1.99, $2. The ones that are above, and when I say above, I mean anywhere from 2 to 2.5, sometimes 3 times above, are the 4 that are here are the most that I've seen. And you'll notice that none of these are actually in the starter. That's a huge factor. So you have Anna, Elsa, who if you watch my last video, I said was going to be the #1 uncommon, and it is, of course. It's some of the best art in the game. It's one of the most played cards in the game, and in the uncommon slot. And she's just very powerful. So I'm not surprised that she's there. And again, she's a D23 card, so people are still like, oh, I always wanted that D23 card, but I'm not going to pay an exorbitant price. Well, she's an uncommon. She's still well above $1.99, but she's still there. And then one of my least favorite cards, Cheshire Cat, as you know, he's also well above because he is in a lot of those Emerald aggro decks that you see flying around. And Flynn Rider also. He's, again, not in the starter. Very powerful card for 2 costs, 2 lore, very powerful effect, etc. So these 4 cards you'll see going well above $1.99, and as like maybe $3.50 or something like that. But Elsa, Cheshire Cat, and Flynn are all well above $1.99, and I expect them to stay there. As the starting price assumption changes, like, you know, if uncommons go down to $1.50, then their price will change accordingly. But what their ratio is in relation to the starting price, I think, will remain for these 3 to 4 cards. And again, every other common is there. Pretty much every other uncommon is in the starters, so that's why they are where they are. I know they're in the starters in varying numbers, and a lot of times you want to make up to get to that playset because there are a lot of playable uncommons, but nonetheless, they are in the starter. Here's where things start to get interesting at the rares. The main factor in rares and above, and I'm going to mention this in each time, is how playable is the card. Because you are not guaranteed to get, I mean, you're not going to get a playset of rares even out of multiple boxes. I'm just going to put that out there. Because what you have to understand is there are 48 rares. That is a ton of rares. So you may open a lot of individual rares when you're if you sort your cards by rarity. I sort my cards by alphabetical total, like not by rarity. But if you sort your cards by rarity, you're going to have a massive stack of rares. And it's going to look like you have a ton of rares compared to your super rares and legendaries. And that's going to be true. But there are a ton more super rares than there are super rares and legendaries. So you will not have a playset of most of those rares, even if you get multiple boxes. I can't say really how many boxes it's going to take you to get a playset of rares, but I can tell you that opening double-digit boxes, I don't have multiple playsets of certain rares. Do I have a playset of every rare? Yes, but I don't have multiple playsets of them. So what's going to happen is for dealers, basically all the best rares are going to always sell out. It doesn't necessarily mean that prices are going to rise. It just means they're always going to be in demand, so they're not going to drop in price. So keep that in mind. You open a ton of rares, but it's not equal distribution of those rares across the board. So everyone's going to be looking for the same rares they need to finish their collection. So the starting price assumption for rares is a little higher than I thought it was going to be. I said $5 in the last video. It's actually more around $8. And the ones that are, I'm only including the ones that are above. I just chose one from each ink because they all happen to be above that price. But you have Cusco, Be Prepared, Grab Your Sword, even though it's in the starter, Just in Time, Jafar, and Jasmine are all about 1 to 1.5 times at most above the $8, but a ton of the rares are all sitting at that $8 median point. So I think there will be a lot of fluctuation in what goes on in the rare slot. Some people will start to dump a lot of them because, again, there are so many of them that it's a lot of them are going to drop in value. But these 6 here, I would assume, will stay close to, if not above, that starting price. And I do believe that Be Prepared and Cusco will be the 2 highest rares in the set. Super rares. Again, what's important here is how playable is the card. It's also important to note there are 18 super rares, which is 3 per ink color. Again, it's very difficult to get a playset out of this. Double-digit boxes, I had 1 playset of A Whole New World. I probably have 1 playset of Tinkerbell, maybe 1 or 2 extra. It's very difficult to get a playset of super rares. The other thing is a lot of them are playable, but they have variation in their playability. And that's going to be a huge factor, is how variable is the playability of these. So let's take a look at the ones and how they're performing right now. So the starting price assumption, again, on super rares is much lower than I thought it was going to be, but there's way more of them in the box than I thought there were going to be. I said there was going to originally be 4 to 6. I was wrong. There's 12 to 16. That's massive. So the prices are way down on them, but I mean, you get more of them. So like the overall box price, which, spoiler alert, we're going to be doing on this channel to tell you how your box does. What is the value of that box you opened? So let's take a look at the super rares and which ones are doing well. The ones that are well above the $20 in the pre-sales are Tinkerbell, Ariel, and A Whole New World. And when I say well above the $20, I'm talking up to 3 times that. These are the cards that everybody wants a playset of. Everybody needs a playset of, depending on what they're, unless they're, not going to play those specific decks. Obviously, most people want a playset of everything, but these are some of the first cards that you're getting a full playset of, which means, again, because of the distribution, you may have a decent, there's 12 to 16 super rares, but it doesn't mean you're going to get 4 of each that are in your box. So so a lot of the really good ones are just going to be constantly going out of stock in the dealers. It doesn't mean that the overall price is going to stay that high, but I believe they will sell at decent values. I've seen them sell for less on eBay running up to release, but TCG Player is a different animal, a much bigger market for specifically cards. So we'll see how it goes. I still believe no matter what the prices settle at, these three will still be above whatever that median price is. And then I just want to talk about some other ones that are above it. So Genie on the Job, the Queen, and the Steel Hans are all still above the $20 price point. And pretty much everything else, like I said, is pretty much at that price point. But these are, again, very playable in their colors, the basis of certain decks. So you can expect to see these maintain that price as well. I especially see like something like the Queen having the potential to go up. I don't know if it's going to hit that upper tier, but it may. I think it's that powerful. Same thing with Genie. I think that's holding down Genie is that there's also the enchanted version. Same thing with Tinkerbell. She may come down a little bit if more of the enchanted versions are out there. And finally, what you're all here for is to look at the legendaries. Now, please hit me up in the comments below if you let me know what you think of this analysis. Let me know if you've been buying cards even before launch or what you plan to do once launch hits. I know you're going to have certain sealed product, but how are you going to fill out the rest of your collection? It's the smartest thing to do, like I've said it many times, wait until September 1st and then go with the singles from there. But are you even going to buy singles right away if you see good deals, etc.? Just let me know what you're going to do with those singles in the comments. And if you're looking for additional type of analysis, and like I said, we're definitely going to have one right when the September 1st big box launch hits and what happened in the 2 weeks leading up. If you want to see more content like this, smash that subscribe button, give us a like, and let us know that you love this type of content. So back to the legendaries. Again, there's only 12 of them. The biggest issue is how playable they are, and there is massive variation in these prices. So again, there are pretty much double the amount that I thought there was going to be. I said 1 to 2, 2 to 3. There's actually 4 to 6 pretty much that are in each box. But the overall price of a box is maybe a little bit, the legendaries in the box is a little bit less than I had said before. But there's still the median price on most legendaries is still $30 to $35, which means if you're getting 5 of them in a box, that pretty much pays for your box. Again, sell price, not buy price. But even if you look at buy price, if most dealers are paying between 40 to 50%, you're still looking at making back half your price right away. Who's well above? Again, no surprise whatsoever. The actual biggest surprise to me is how well Brave Little Tailor is selling. I'd like to say it's people thinking that it's a D23 one, but it's actually not, and saying I'm going to sort eBay by Brave Little Tailor, and I see that some are going for 1,000 and this one's only going for 75. I better jump on that one. I hope that's not what's happening. He's the only one that I'm kind of surprised about because I kind of find him to be a lot less playable now than he used to be. So that kind of surprises me, but he is kind of the flagship card of the set. So I guess people just really like the art and really like Mickey Mouse. So those collectors are jumping all over him. But the other three don't surprise me at all. Again, Belle and Elsa have enchanted versions, so keep an eye on that. And then Rapunzel doesn't, so she's actually a lot of times selling more than Belle and Elsa because they don't have enchanted versions. And anyone that was buying these cards early really wanted that enchanted version, so it doesn't surprise me that the card that doesn't have an enchanted version is going for more than the other two. But Belle and Elsa are still very, very popular. The other two that are really going for above that $30 to $35 price, or at least selling consistently at those prices, is Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, who finally, my girl has her day in the sun, and you see her as a 4 of in all these Ruby Amethyst control decks that I've been playing since the beginning and having all that. And then Hades is essentially Maleficent Light, just uninkable for 2 less cost here. So he's seeing a ton of play in Sapphire-less, and as I've said in other videos, Sapphire and Ruby are really 2 sides of the same coin. So a lot of them are being used interchangeably. But as you all know, when Gen Con launched, one more rarity came into play. But lucky for you, I already did a video on Enchanteds. So if you click that link right there, you'll get my entire video right on Enchanteds. So let me know what you think. I know a lot of people watch that video. We'll see how the prices go come August 18th, but I still have confidence things are going to go well. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. It's, again, the market watch that's happening on the pre-launch. I'm 2 days before launch right now. We'll see how I did. I do anticipate the market to be extremely crazy for the first few days as people are trying to immediately make back the money on their boxes, and try to get good deals that are out there. So if you are looking to actually buy singles, I think the best time for you is probably around August 21st to 22nd, the Monday and Tuesday. As people are like, oh, I sorted all my boxes. Now I got to immediately put it on TCGplayer. I got to immediately put it on eBay and get the, make back the money as fast as possible. So I think early next week will be the best time to buy singles leading up to what's going to go on. But as we get closer to September 1st, prices will level off a little bit, probably go up a little bit as supply starts to dwindle. And then come September 1st, things will go down again. So keep that in mind. Thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed this content. Smash that subscribe button. See you next time.